So I just wanted to summarize what I think is the best State of the Union of all time so far. I don't. It's probably because of how much improvement we made in the last year and how far we are in evolutionary pace. Like I'm eager for the next one because I think this is the best State of the Union 2019. Trump's 2019 State of the Union is best State of the Union of all time in my opinion because it dealt with a lot. So a typical State of the Union starts with like a good intro. And then like fundamental ideals that we need to keep in mind as like any as prerequisite requirements, fundamental ideals that we need to keep in mind to use as fundamental requirements before any attempt to govern. So it starts with his introduction, and then it goes through like basics and foundations that we should always have in mind, like reminding America to keep these ideals in mind before any attempt to govern. And it's basically like the most important ideals. They were very well worded, and then he, throughout the speech, after the intro and the fundamental prerequisites to any attempts to govern, he uh, throughout the speech he incrementally like introduces like about 10 people or something, around 10 people. I didn't count exactly how many, but he goes over people who are relevant to the topics that he's covering, and then the main part of the speech, which is like literally 2/3 of the State of the Union, is basically statistics of where we've improved since last year. And it's literally just going over every aspect of politics. I think every aspect of like debates, the debate questions cover, and he just goes over where we've improved, and then finally, uh, after and that's 2/3 of the speech is our improvements that we've made, and then the whole entire 1/3 is the introduction, the conclusion, foundational prerequisites before any attempt to govern, and even all the people all combined into like 1/3. So it's mostly State of the Union. I don't know if all of them were set up like that, but this one was set up like that. So in my opinion, the State of the Union is basically like an update, a reminder, and an update, and also like a rally. Um, a rally, yeah, a rally, and update, and then after he uh, goes over all the things we've improved on, um, statuses, updates. He goes over uh, areas that we have yet to improve on, areas that we didn't improve on as much that we probably should in the future. So Donald Trump's introduction to the 2019 State of the Union address consists of an idea that we should focus on governing as one nation instead of two opposing parties, as we continue to defend American jobs, demand fair trade for American workers, rebuild and revitalize our nation's infrastructure, reduce the price of health care, succeed in securing our nation with an effective immigration plan, and resume foreign policy while putting American interests first. Um, and the rising action of the speech before the main part of the speech that dealt with specifics and statistics reiterated general concepts that we should keep in mind as foundational prerequisites before we make any decisions in politics or government. After giving praise to people who saved America's freedom, transformed science, redefined the middle class, Trump makes a patriotic statement about how nothing can compete with America during the 20th century, and that we should step into the 21st century with foundational ideals that look out for the quality of life that is within reach. Uh, so we need to step into the 21st century with foundational ideals that look out for the quality of life that's within reach, including keeping our communities safer, families stronger, culture richer, faith solidified, and middle class flourishing. He then finishes the rising action of the speech by rejecting resistance and retribution and embracing collaboration and compromise. That's an important part of the speech. And he rewords it. He rewords rejecting resistance and retribution and embracing collaboration and compromise uh, later on. His bold statement about how we are in a critical position to break decades of political stalemate, bridge all divisions, heal old wounds, build new coalitions, forge new solutions, and unlock extraordinary promise for America's future is one of the main all-encompassing statements of the speech, along with this statement that introduced a good theme about greatness versus gridlock. That's how he reworded it, greatness versus gridlock. And then this was the last part of his intro and foundational ideals before he moved into introducing the people and all the statistics and then areas to improve. And then greatness versus gridlock, that explains the idea that we need to get more things done, or that we do get more things done when we come to more agreements between parties and opposing political fronts while keeping barriers to a minimum. So people he honors from the introduction to conclusion: 3 World War II veterans, Buzz Aldrin, Alice Johnson. Alice Johnson's freed nonviolent drug offender who became a prison minister and made a great impact on the prisoners' population as she was sentenced to life for a drug charge. And that was another part of the speech, dealing with the all the updates on the people who were sentenced long sentence for a drug charge. Matthew Johnson, another drug offender, sentenced over 30 years. Someone who's an ideal person that relates to the First Step Act. Someone that the First Step Act recognizes. Elvin Hernandez, successful ICE special agent, a child who beat cancer. Tom Weberly, whose son Craig was one of 12 lost on the USS Cole, another child whose grandparents were murdered by a Central American cartel. Timothy Madsen, who is recovering from his 12th surgery after running into a mass shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue. Judah Samet, a Pittsburgh shooting and Nazi concentration camp survivor who had his 81st birthday there at the State of the Union, and the audience saying happy birthday to him. And a former prisoner, he was also a former prisoner of a Nazi concentration camp. And at the end of the speech, this is a different person. Summit was in the Pittsburgh shooting, and there was a former prisoner of a Nazi concentration camp at the end of the speech who was reunited with one of the World War II veterans from earlier, who was there the day that the Americans took control of the particular concentration camp where he was held. So that's all the people that he recognized, and they were all relevant to the topics that he was covering. And then about 2/3 of the speech was the main part of the speech, where all the updated statistics were mentioned. This was the main part of the speech when the president wasn't conducting an attention getter, presenting foundational ideals to keep in mind, honoring special people, or making a historical State of the Union conclusion. Some of the updated statistics about our new accomplishments included such facts as Americans will be going to space on American rockets, as we are at a peak in terms of the space industry. He also said 5 million people have been lifted off food stamps since last year. Unemployment's been at its lowest rate in half century, as we currently have 157 million workers in America. Minority disability-related unemployment rates are at all-time lows. There are benefits of our massive tax cut. He doubled our child tax credit. We ended the state tax or death tax on small business for ranches and family farms. We eliminated Obamacare's penalties. We passed the Right to Try Act, among other acts. We unleashed a revolution in energy as the USA is currently the #1 producer of oil and natural gas in the world. And that could be viewed as a positive thing. America is currently a net exporter of energy. The addition of American jobs was doubled what it was expected to be just last month. The addition of American jobs was double what it was expected to be in 1 month. Um, Consequences of the opioid crisis in America is dwindling. It's less available, and I guess the results are showing. And it was mentioned in this 2019 State of the Union. 2018 was like increasing more than exponentially since 2015, I think. And the fact that it started to subside is a good thing, the opioid crisis. And we have a sweeping new farm bill. We've just reached a historic point in VA reforms and VA accountability. There are more women in America's workforce in Congress than ever before. 2018, single largest drug price decline in 46 years. Innovation rate is fine as is. We have maintained peace in the Korean Peninsula by strengthening ties with North Korea. Obama strengthened ties with Cuba, and Trump strengthening ties with North Korea, who had ended nuclear testing. And American forces have killed one of the terrorist leaders responsible for the attack on the USS Cole. And America has withdrawn from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal, which apparently is a good thing. And that America is working on a trade deal with China that will point out unfair trade practices. So that's the final thing of the positive improvements that we made in 1 year. And he also went over some negative statistics related to areas we need to improve on, including such facts as we need to bring back manufacturing jobs. I guess there wasn't that much of an improvement in terms of manufacturing in the last year. We need to focus more on protecting intellectual property. I don't know if that's an international thing, or I don't know why you mentioned that. I don't know why you threw that in there on areas we need to improve. Focus on protecting intellectual property when there's probably 100 different things that are we could improve on over than that. But manufacturing jobs, we need to improve on protecting intellectual property. We need to produce more in the USA. We need to expand agriculture. So, and we still have yet to establish a reciprocal trade act that will allow us to apply the same tariff for the same product that a foreign country applies on us. So that's a good thing. In terms of economic integration, making those tariffs more fair, and I guess reducing tariffs and being fair to everyone is a good thing in terms of economic integration, which has all those benefits that I mentioned in my uh, uh, economic integration of universal basic income video, and my 2019 statuses and updates on global and national priorities. And same tariff. We haven't made much progress on a bill to fix America's crumbling infrastructure. Uh, we need to lower the price of health care and prescription drugs while assisting patients with pre-existing conditions. So he's talking about improving, or he's talking about what Obama was talking about with Medicare for All, Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. He's talking about improving manufacturing. He's talking about intellectual property. He's talking about tariffs and barriers, and allowing more free trade, and he's talking about removing tariffs that are unfair. He's talking about America's crumbling infrastructure, and he's talking about having drugs the same price. We still need. He's talking about healthcare more specifically. We still need to establish the fact that it's important that the same drug that's often manufactured in the same place is sold at different prices in different countries. So we have to fix that as well. And then the last few things we need to improve on: prohibit late-term abortion, and that there's an epidemic in socialist Venezuela, who went from one of the wealthiest countries into a country that is currently in a state of abject poverty. So that's a big part, because like it was kind of a rally with the introduction, and it was kind of a reminder with the fundamental ideals that we need to keep in mind before any attempts to govern. Those were very important. And then it was kind of a rally with the stats where we've improved on, and then basically what we need to do, our mission as a nation, was the last part. After he honored all the people who related to the topics. He yeah, basically he did all the areas that we need to improve our a mission. This is like if we continue what we did last year, and these are the things that we could do to um, basically move forward at a better evolutionary pace and get more things completed. And the president focused. In conclusion, the president focused a lot on topics such as sending 50,000 troops to fortify our southern border, to end illegal immigration, that solves sexual assault, using children as pawns leads to an increase in drug, human, and sex traffickers who sneak between our ports of entry, causing 266,000 arrests, 100,000 assaults, 36,000 sex crimes, and 4,000 murders to occur in America last year that could have been prevented if we had already solved illegal immigration. And he covered everything he should have basically. So he's going over mega structures. I didn't even think he mentioned the Space Force. That's another accomplishment he's made. But basically, he's gotten a good start on mega structures, and he's gotten a good start on adding new military branches. Space Force is probably the thing I'm most excited about that's happened so far. And I'm going to do another summary on that on the Space Force hearing. And he covered everything he should have at the end of his speech, honoring the Americans before us by stating that we need to add to the existing long-term vision of our country, add to the existing long-term vision of our country. And that's my 2019 State of the Union summary.